The whole messaging of anxiety right now in our culture is it's a problem that you have to live with. It's just a part of the human experience. And that's a myth.
You're listening to Be Well by Kelly LeVeque. Dr. Nicole Cain is a nationally recognized expert in integrative and trauma-informed approaches to mental and emotional wellness. She's the author of the acclaimed book, Panic Proof, and is known for blending the best of modern medicine with holistic root cause solutions. Her work is grounded in empowering individuals to reclaim their mental health through personalized, whole-person care. Let's welcome Dr. Nicole Cain to the show. Dr. Nicole Cain, I have been so looking forward to this episode. I want to learn how to diminish anxiety. I want my audience to feel like they understand what is anxiety, what are the types of anxiety, and your new book, Panic Proof, is honestly, it feels like the encyclopedia of anxiety. It's like, here are the different types, here's how you can support it, and here's a holistic solution, which I really appreciate. So thank you for being here and for sharing your time. And I know how much time it takes to put a book together and write it and share like your heart and soul and all of your education and your learnings. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. This has been my heart and soul, and getting to talk about it and share the message of hope that is in this book is literally what sets my soul on fire. So delighted. I'm so excited to bless your community and to serve the mental health community and everyone.
Well, it's perfect timing because I think, what's interesting in the last couple of years is that they would say that, mental illness is a chemical imbalance and it can't be healed. And the science has changed. And I would love for you to explain a little bit about what anxiety is. Like, I want to start from the ground up, the foundation. Like, what is anxiety, and is it here forever if you feel like you're an anxious person?
One of the big myths about anxiety is that we don't have anxiety. And I think some of that comes from not having the language for it.
Okay.
And it used to be, are you feeling frightened and are you having panic attacks? If so, okay, we'll just slap you with a label of anxiety and we'll recommend you to maybe get an antidepressant, or if you're lucky, your doctor might refer you to talk therapy. Mm-hmm. But for many of us, that either doesn't solve the problem or it helps ever so much, but then it just is something we have to manage. And research has a different answer for that. If you and I were to go into downtown LA and put on our researcher hats, and we were to talk to all the people that are walking around and say, what is it like for you when you get overwhelmed or stressed or frustrated, or when you're trying to make something perfect, but you feel like you can never quite get there?
Yeah.
What is that like for you? And if everybody wrote all of their experiences down, whether it's their thoughts, their emotions, their sensations, or their behaviors, we can roughly categorize that into 9 different symptoms. And so instead of, well, are you feeling stressed and overwhelmed and panicky? Here's a big bucket that we can sort of shove everything into diagnostically. Now we have systems where we can understand it better. And the wonderful thing about these systems is that it allows us to research it better so we can try to understand the root causes, and it allows us to be really precise with our treatments so they actually work. So the question of what is anxiety is when we have this normal fear response that occurs when we're not in danger.
Okay.
So if you imagine your ancestors and they were gathering berries in the woods and there was a gar in the bushes over to the side, fear is really appropriate. So it could show up from head to toe fear. Some people, their heart pounds and it's chest anxiety. Mm-hmm. Other people, their muscles get really, really tight and their shoulders shrug up and they just have to run. That's nervous system anxiety. Some people, they actually lose their bowels.
Yeah.
Kids throw up often. Mm-hmm. It's gut anxiety. And so this extreme fear shows up in the body that allows them to get away from the tiger. Mm-hmm. However, if that same kind of response happens when you're driving to work or trying to get your kids ready for school, Or you're just putting your makeup on for the day and you get those same biological, those emotional, those behavioral symptoms, but you're not actually in danger. That's anxiety. But the key with anxiety is to know that, as you and I were talking about before we hit record, is that it can occur on a spectrum where the body starts with a whisper. And then if we don't hear the whisper and meet the need that that whisper is telling us about in its mercy, I would say, because our bodies are so incredible, it'll get a little louder and a little louder and a little louder until we're all the way to the other end of the spectrum where it could be crisis, panic, terror. And so when we look at anxiety, we look at what does it look like? When is it happening? Why is it happening? And what is it trying to teach us?
I feel like that spectrum, understanding that spectrum and when to intervene has got to be so critically important, because when I think about what maybe gives me anxiety, and we were talking before the show, the first time I really felt like maybe I've had anxiety, maybe like I've just dealt with that level of anxiety. I know you talk about green, yellow, and red.
Yes.
And like that spectrum being like where you are on that light spectrum. I think, when I think about the things that would give me anxiety, I feel like I've, for a lot of my life, bucketed those anxiety levels in like a whisper green or like maybe a little like, hey, little poke yellow.
Yes.
But no one was ever screaming in my head, like inside out, like, get out of here. But, the house is on fire. Like it never felt like that until I was in construction with our home. Like we had bought our first home and, I thought, we'll just do a little bit of construction. And that little bit of construction sort of ended up being a lot bigger project than I thought it was going to be based on like the state of the home and some of the changes that we made, that it was unbeknownst to me that if you like made your windows higher, that of course you would have to make your doors higher. But there was just so many things that weren't kind of accounted for in that budget. And I hadn't gotten a construction loan. I was trying to bootstrap my way through this sort of construction project that ended up being huge. And I told you before the show, like there were multiple nights where I would wake up and wouldn't be able to fall back asleep. I'd go get in the bathtub and it'd be like 1 or 2 in the morning and I would have to do some breathing and think about like, how was I going to get this done? And how was I going to pay for it? And what we were going to dip into savings and all the things. Like, how do you, like liquidate a 401k if you need to, like scary stuff like that. And that was the first time I ever felt like I was in the red, like panicky, but I felt so good knowing, well, eventually the walls will be put back together and I'll be in my house and it will be over. And I never wish this on anyone, and we're never doing construction. We're never buying another house ever again. Like just get through it. But luckily I did see sort of like that finish line, and I could say like, we'll get through it and I'll get back to my regular levels of green and yellow. But when you look at that spectrum, let's say someone is just having green, like sometimes I have what I would feel like are nerves or excitement about, say, like the show, like the podcast. I'm going to tape 4 back-to-back and I'm like, ooh, that's a big day. Like, how am I going to be mentally prepared for that? Or if I have like a TV event or where you're like, do I have anxiety? Is this nerves or anxiety? And at what point do you pull the ripcord where I'm like, that feels like a yellow. Should I just not do it? I feel like it would, if I identified with it as being anxiety or fear, that I would want to like be in my bed all day. Like I wouldn't want to do what I need to do to live my life or like provide for my family. Like at what point is it just not good for you to be on that spectrum and to pull out versus just say like, this is a normal part of everyday life and you have to just do it?
Yeah. I think it boils down to personal power.
Yeah.
And so when you're in your window of tolerance, have you heard that language before?
No, tell me about it.
So the window of tolerance is, we use the image of a window, and that's your comfort zone.
Okay.
So I can tolerate that, things that happen that are unexpected. Like this is still within the zone where I feel like I can reasonably handle it. I feel reasonably prepared. It's that zone where you feel power. And feeling personal power is the antidote to anxiety. And so that's the key here. So when I'm in my window of tolerance, I can stay in the green zone. Things can happen. I got this. I can even be excited about it. Like you have a podcast coming and you're like, I'm going to boss it up today.
Yeah.
I'm feeling like my heart's going a little faster. That's excitement.
Yeah.
I feel like my body temperature, like I need a little extra deodorant today.
Heck
like
yeah.
it means I'm like on it, right? So that's like, it's still the same biological process, but the way that you experience it is from a place of power.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
Because I feel like you can move it to, like, you can,
Yes.
yeah, you can like,
you just got it.
You can move from that place of fear and I don't control this to, no, like I own this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do have a lot of autonomy in my life and creative power and directional power. When something doesn't feel right, I can make moves and changes. I realize that it's a privilege, but I also have to recognize that I built this up over the last 10 to 12 years. So it's been a lot of not having the privilege over my calendar or schedule, what I was doing, saying yes to the things I needed to say yes to, which felt a little bit more, I guess, more anxious and less in my power. And today I feel like definitely more in my power and less anxious.
I even see your body language change subtly as you remember not being in your power.
Oh, yeah.
And then how you alchemized that by making small yet strategic and empowered decisions. And I even see your shoulders change, your expression changes, just how even it reflects in your unconscious experience, perhaps.
Oh, yeah. How often do people, because I feel like, and makes me curious because I do feel like I have a lot of control and power over my life. I don't feel like a victim, even though sometimes, I'm like, shoot, I wanted certain things, like maybe to have more at-home time with my boys and not to be the breadwinner or whatever, but I love this job and I'm so passionate about what I get to do every day. And that gives me, someone asked me on an earlier podcast, do you feel guilty for being here? And I don't. When I'm doing stuff like this, I feel so good about being across the table from powerful women and informed, educated women like you who can change people's lives. That, here's my megaphone, go for it. Tell the world about Panic Proof. I can't wait. That makes me so excited. It is when I'm doing things that aren't in alignment with my power, where I'm I have to do this. I don't want to do this. And I'm not also spending time with my boys, that I feel anxious, not in my power, kind of angry about having to do it. And we all have stuff we have to do like that. It's just the reality of it. But how often do you feel people are not stepping into their power to change their life?
All the time. And so the word that I like to use with that is coherence.
Okay.
And coherence is, I would say, a bodily based communicator for most of us. It's when you're making a decision to say yes to something, that means we have to say no to something else. And vice versa. So if I'm going to say no to this opportunity, that means I'm saying yes to this. And so with the decisions that we make, oftentimes our bodies are communicating with us. Oh my gosh, I feel dread. Or, oh, I feel a heaviness in my chest. Or gosh, my mind is racing and I can't sleep tonight. I made that decision. An example for me is I applied to multiple medical schools. And so I chose to go to the one that I thought was good on paper.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to go to the best school. This one is supposedly the best on paper. So I gave them my deposit and I just didn't feel good in my body. And so then I'm out of coherence and I'm why do I feel this way? I don't feel good. Something is unsettled. And I could have chose to deny that. But there's a quote, it's what we deny will amplify.
Ooh.
And what we resist will persist. And so thank goodness I stopped, I noticed, and I honored whatever was coming up for me. And then I imagined, I'm what if I were to make a different decision? What if I'd have chosen this other school? And I imagined that. And I just felt the difference in my body. And I was oh, girl, I got to choose the option that's not as good on paper. And it was the best decision I ever made.
So what school was it?
I ended up going to Arizona.
Okay.
And I went to medical school at the Southwest College Naturopathic Medicine.
Okay.
I said no to Bastyr.
Wow.
I thought Bastyr was best on paper.
Yeah.
They're both wonderful schools. And I acknowledge what a privilege to be able to choose between this wonderful school and that wonderful school.
Yeah.
Another example, and I'm wondering if you have examples, because I'd love to hear what you think, is I used to have a horrible fear of flying.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be like, I have to fly, because I split time in Michigan and Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I have to fly. I have to go to do my thing in Arizona. And now I have to go and do my thing over here in Michigan. And I hate flying. And it's just so miserable. And I would get on the plane. I would curl into the fetal position. And I would be sweating. And my head would feel like it's exploding. And I would have zapping nerve pain across my teeth. And I was just shaking and crying and clutching a Bible. And I was like, I'm going to die. And I felt like a victim. I felt so out of control. I felt so out of coherence. And I flew here yesterday. And when I got on that plane, they were like, it's going to be really bumpy. And I was like, I'll chew on some ice. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was choosing to come and hang out with you.
Yeah.
I was choosing to go up to LA. And I was doing it from a place of personal power and agency.
Mm-hmm.
And those sensations that can come as the body gets a little aroused, because the body is always here. It's like, are we in danger? Do we need to fight, flight, freeze, flop, fawn, fracture? I got you. What do we need to do?
Mm-hmm.
And if we say, I notice you,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, my love. I'm listening and we're safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly our window of tolerance gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So that teeny little window of being able to fly, maybe a little bit without having a panic attack. Now I came here to see you. I'm going to go to Portugal in a few months.
That makes me so happy for you.
And we can do that. And a big part of it starts with, where is my sense of personal power? Where can I alchemize that power into growing?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I listen to my body as my wise inner guide?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we become panic proof. This is how we end anxiety forever, which I knew this was going to be a controversial statement on the book,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted it there because the whole messaging of anxiety right now in our culture is, it's a problem that you have to live with. It's just a part of the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a myth.
My new amino acid supplements come in flavorless and lemon water, and they're flying off the shelves, and here's why. I have meticulously sourced these vegan fermented essential amino acids from Japan. I am so proud of this being made the Be Well way, with maximum quality and minimum ingredients. My flavorless is simply those vegan fermented essential amino acids from Japan. Our lemon water contains minimal ingredients of only organic lemon powder, organic citric acid, and organic monk fruit. No natural flavors, no artificial flavors, no artificial sweeteners, no emulsifiers, no additives. This is simply that nutrition targeted for your goals. If you want to give my Be Well protein or aminos a try, or restock it if you're already loving it, take advantage of my gift for podcast listeners. Code PODCAST10 is going to get you $10 off just for being a listener. Write it down and shop with me after you listen. Hey friends, I've got some huge news to share. I'm genuinely so excited about this. AG1 just launched their next gen formula, and it's honestly a game changer. It's still that easy once-a-day scoop that I've been loving for years, but this next gen formula is now the most clinically backed greens powder. They went above and beyond the industry standard in testing and have made a great product even better. In clinical trials, it's shown to increase healthy gut bacteria by 10 times. And it fills in common nutrient gaps. The formula is now optimized for absorption and impact with added nutrients that support immune health, gut health, energy, and more. Now clinically backed by the advanced formula, this is the perfect time to try AG1 if you haven't yet. I've been drinking AG1 now for 4 years, and I'm so happy to be partnering with them again. So subscribe today and try the next gen AG1. If you use my link, you also get a free bottle of AG1 D3K2 and an AG1 welcome kit, plus 5 of the upgraded AG1 travel packs with your first order. So make sure to check out drinkag1.com/bewell to get started with AG1's next gen and notice the benefits for yourself. That's drinkag1.com/bewell. Well, in the book, you talk all about the different types so that you can heal. Mm-hmm. So can we dive into the different types of anxiety and like why that would manifest in the body?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thought anxiety. Let's start with there.
Okay.
And you told that example, actually. So you were dealing with this construction and there's all these things.
What ifs.
The what ifs. So you were what if tripping.
Yeah. What if I can't pay it?
Yeah.
What if it costs more? Because there's always a change order.
Always. They're like, the price has changed. Sorry. It's all the uncertainties. So first of all, there were things happening that were out of your personal power. So you're out of your agency, you're out of your coherence, you're out of your power. And then arguably you were out of your window of tolerance.
110.
Wow. The fact that you did that though, that's how you grow.
Yeah.
Because you could have chosen to reclaim your power by backpedaling out and just being like, nope, we're not doing this. We're just going to cut our losses. But what you did instead is that you noticed there is an end to this. And these are the things that I need to do so that I can manage to the end of this. And so you incorporated personal agency. So one of the things that you did, practically speaking, is you took a bath. What else did you do?
Well, my sister who runs my finances at BWBK, her and I talked about, she went back in time and looked at at certain points, there were contract deals that I did with brands, with my book publisher, with my clients. And she looked and aggregated well, how could you basically get a good contract or a good deal, or how could you go out and get drum up business? Yeah. And for me, I was at this point where I wasn't needing to drum up business. And I was so grateful for that, the time and effort put into putting the book out into the world, and then the second book out into the world, and having clients. And she was like, well, what do you love to do? And what can we do to change this sort of situation? And I said, I'd love to do group classes or group work, because then I can work together with a group of women. We didn't have men, but it wasn't because I didn't let the men in. It was just the way the cookie crumbled.
Yes. Yeah.
I ended up creating some courses, and I ended up creating basically a Be Well group where we met monthly, and I felt so good about it. I was helping so many women and sharing science and strategies. And I went out and drummed up the business. I did kind of what I always did in the beginning, which is, hey, if you liked working with me, will you just tell a friend or two? It's a real cringy kind of thing that you have to do sometimes. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to get other clients, you have to ask for help. Hey, if you feel like you've gained something from this, tell your friends, share it. I'd love to support other women. I used to see 6 to 8 clients in a day back in the day, and it was driving all over LA from house to house or studio to studio, and those are crazy times, but I had to kind of go back to my roots and know I have the power to support my family to get through this, and I also can make the time and put in the work to do it, and that's what I did.
So you noticed the symptoms, you noticed what was coming up, you noticed the worry, you noticed the what ifs, you're having this experience. And what you did that's really powerful that everybody who's listening to this can learn from is, what are these symptoms? In this example, thought anxiety. What is it telling me is an unmet need? And for you, you had a little bit of a gap between what you were expecting to happen with this construction and what was being quoted to you.
Yeah.
And so what you chose to do is you reclaimed personal power, because personal power is the antidote to anxiety. That's the key I want people to get when they listen to this. So you got personal power, and you did that in a way that you knew how. And so instead of looking at the thought anxiety as a problem, you looked at it as data. And that's the key for our symptoms. Is your symptoms aren't the problem. Your symptoms are invitations to how to heal deeply so that the problems aren't there. So thought anxiety is you use a top-down approach, and a top-down approach is what we use in the language of neuroscience and trauma-informed care to work with the higher logical parts of the brain to create solutions that can thereby address the cause and help us not be anxious. So thought anxiety, you rock that, girl.
Well, yeah. And it was weird because I had definitely, even moving through creating the monthly program and having people join and, join the membership. And I enjoyed it enough to like do it beyond our construction project, which was also like lucky and wonderful. But that anxiety or that like low level buzz kind of feels like electrical buzz was there until we, moved our bed into the house and we were like, okay, we're here. Shut the door, lock it, and it's, I mean, it was definitely an undertaking, but I feel good that it's over. And I'm not afraid of construction. I mean, my youngest is sleeping in our closet right now, full disclosure, in like a travel crib, and he has been for like almost 2 years. But I feel more prepared for it, and I know how to handle it next time to make sure that there's something in our contract that the change orders won't exceed a certain percentage, that I know exactly what all the costs are prior. I mean, I learned so much in the process, and now anytime anyone wants to go through any type of construction, I'm like, let's sit down and have a coffee because I can help you be prepared for this and make an informed decision around what your capabilities are and like what you can actually do. So I do, like I think education and the learning makes you feel like your window can get bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, you alchemize that.
Okay. So there's thought anxiety, and I work through that. What's next?
So then let's think about, well, what's happening that you said that like buzz, that electrical buzz.
Yeah.
I think that's a good invitation to endocrine anxiety.
Okay.
Endocrine anxiety is anxiety that comes from the endocrine system, which is hormones. So we're thinking about cortisol, which we know stress hormone, and cortisol is released by the adrenal glands, which sit on top of the kidneys in your back. And that can cause your heart rate to go up, your blood pressure to rise, your thoughts to go faster. Cortisol helps us wake up in the morning. It helps us have energy to do the things we want to do. And it can make us feel really excited when we're on a roller coaster and we're like, wee, we're like going down the hills and we feel elation and thrill. Cortisol. And there's adrenaline. Adrenaline is what helps people who are racing a race car, or people who are running a marathon, or women who lift cars off of babies.
Yeah.
Like these are your superpower hormones, right? And then we have estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Hormones can help us have energy, and they can produce anxiety, and they can also combat it. So when you're describing that kind of low-level buzz that's happening, that's your endocrine system. It's giving you the energy. So in case you need to do something, you're ready for it. And so the question that we need to ask ourselves when we have symptoms is, well, what's going on with my hormones? In the book, I write a story about Charlotte. And Charlotte was one of my favorite people. She's quirky. She identifies as crunchy. And she's like eating kale chips that have been baked and dehydrated. And she like
Birkenstocks.
She's in Birkenstocks, right? She has this t-shirt I always giggle about. So sometimes I wet my plants.
Oh my God, that's funny.
She's so great. She's so great. And so she's these little kids. She's postpartum and she's very, very thin. She's lost way too much weight, even though she's eating all of the things. She can't keep the weight on. Her blood pressure is high. Her body temperature is high. I remember in the book, I wrote about how I'm like wearing in a row, like a heated vest with a battery pack. And so I'm not freezing and like layers and coats. And she's like sweating and she's hot. And she's like, I'm having a lot of insomnia and panic attacks. So she's like chugging kava tea. And I was like, Charlotte, have you gone to the doctor? Have they done your blood work? She says, yeah, I went to the doctor. She said, good for me losing my baby weight. And that, things are goofy postpartum. So she gave me a benzo. So like, for those who don't know what a benzo is, it's like a Xanax. And they stimulate GABA, which is a relaxing neurotransmitter, so that we're less stimulated. We're more tired. We're more relaxed. She's crunchy. She's as organic as possible. She's not going to take that benzo. So instead, she's just chugging herbal teas and not getting better. And so thankfully, she got a second opinion. And as you probably recall, she had Graves. She had post-delivery Graves autoimmunity.
Hypothyroidism.
It was
through the roof.
Through the roof. And thank God that was found. And that she didn't just concede to just taking a medication. Sometimes we have to be our own We had to be our advocates. And so she was able to treat that naturally. Thank goodness. Not everybody can, but she was.
Yeah.
And then all her symptoms went away because the root cause, which was an endocrine anxiety, went away.
Did you know that most fast food fries have 19 ingredients? 19 ingredients. That's not just fast food. Even store-bought French fries are often fried in seed oils. And as a nutritionist and a mom, I try to avoid seed oils. But let's be real, saying no to my boys when they want fries is tough. So I'm beyond excited to finally say yes to a fry I can feel good about. Meet Jessie and Ben's. I'm always on the lookout for brands innovating in the wellness space, and I've been hunting for those classic fries that check all my boxes. No seed oils, no sneaky ingredients, and most importantly, delicious. Jessie and Ben's fries are the perfect solution for busy families like mine. They make mealtime so much easier. With Jessie and Ben's, I know I'm serving up fries made with non-GMO russet potatoes, 100% grass-fed beef tallow, and sea salt. They're crisp, flavorful, and for the veggie lovers, they've got fries cooked in avocado oil. Here's the big news. Jessie and Ben's just launched nationwide at every Sprouts Farmers Market across the country. And even bigger news, they just launched a brand new sweet potato fry cooked in beef tallow at Sprouts. And they are so tasty. These fries are quick, easy, and totally kid approved. They've got an exclusive deal for my listeners. Head over to jessieandbens.com/bewell. Get 20% off your first bag. That's jessieandbens.com/bewell for an exclusive discount. Trust me, you guys are going to love these fries. We ate all 4 bags in 2 days. What if you could delay the onset of age-related skin changes by targeting aging itself? That's exactly what OneSkin set out to do. The all-woman founding team at OneSkin, made up of PhDs in skin regeneration, stem cell biology, immunology, and bioinformatics, spent years researching how to slow down skin aging at its core. After testing over 900 peptides, they developed the OS01, the first peptide scientifically proven to interrupt cellular senescence, a key process that accelerates aging. In both lab and clinical studies, the OS01 was shown to penetrate deeper layers of skin, improving collagen production, hydration, and overall skin barrier function. Since I started using it, I've noticed a huge difference. My skin feels smoother, more hydrated, and that youthful glow is back. It's the perfect solution for busy moms like me who want to maintain their skin's health and appearance without spending too much time on it. By addressing the root cause of aging, rather than just treating the visible signs, OneSkin helps your skin stay younger and healthier for longer. Want to see for yourself? Use the code BEWELL for 15% off your first order at oneskin.co/BeWell. That's oneskin.co/BeWell at checkout for 15% off your first order. So Graves is that's a pretty extreme example. For women and sex hormones, what is the most common sort of like dysregulation that you see that causes that like low level of anxiety or like the kind of buzz of, I always say I have too many tabs open in my brain. Like I'm like, close them. Because I'll start to, there's got to be like, you got to add a mom anxiety to the book because it's like, I have so many things I have to do or so many things, the mental load is so large. But so what do you normally see that is pretty common, not like a Graves' disease?
A really common example is progesterone and estrogen.
Yeah.
So when we're pregnant, the progesterone is really, really high.
Yeah.
We like that. Keeps baby in. Progesterone is like so lovely, relaxing. Interestingly, progesterone can get broken down into 2 subtypes of progesterone. There's a beta and an alpha. And the alpha is more of that happy, relaxing progesterone, and the other one is not. So this is why some women, when they take progesterone, they're like, my insomnia is cured, and they feel so much better. And then some women are like, I feel bloated, my breasts are engorged, I feel terrible.
Yeah.
Because not all progesterone is made equal. But what's really interesting is, have you heard, and you probably did because you read the book, but had you ever heard that estrogen is like one of our best panic-proof hormones?
Well, yes, I read that in your book, but I also have heard that through multiple women and physicians, neuroscientists who've been on the podcast around estrogen and menopause.
Yes.
So, but please, take the stage.
There was this study that was done, and there were women, this is kind of a little bit of a harder topic, but I think it is important, is there were women who had gone through an assault and that resulted in a pregnancy. And the women who were assaulted and were pregnant and then they took a high dose estrogen, they ended up comparing those women to a group of women who did not receive high-dose estrogen after that. And there were statistically significant differences in incidence of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, nightmares, anxiety, depression, and suicidality. And so the women who received estrogen were significantly more protected. So what that study shows us, which has been reproduced in many other studies, is that estrogen helps us be panic-proof.
Wow.
But there's a specific kind of estrogen, and it's estrogen beta, which is the really good estrogen that we love that helps us be anxiety-free. And so when in doubt, I feel like estrogen gets a bad rap. We're all like estrogen dominance, and we think about how estrogen can cause some other issues. But it's really important, especially when we're postpartum or maybe even perimenopausal, is to look at what kind of estrogen we have and what are the amounts and ratios of it. Have you ever seen a Dutch test?
Oh, yes. I've had Carrie on the show. Like,
oh my goodness.
She's like episode like 10 of like 300 and something.
You were like out the gate, you're like Dutch test.
Well,
Carrie.
thank goodness for the functional MDs that I work with, because the minute you actually deep dive hormones and have that type of testing at your fingertips, you will, not that you like discredit like a Quest lab, but you're like, okay, that's not telling me anything.
Oh my goodness. There's so much more to the conversation, right? Yeah, it's kind of like someone like does an interview with you and then suddenly they think they know everything there is to know about you. It's like, there's more to it.
Yeah, it's Dutch test is definitely like top when it comes to hormones. And it's so easy for people, to do on their own, which I absolutely love too, because there's always that barrier. If it's like, oh, if it's blood test, it's like kind of hard. I got to schedule it. And you're like, just get the kit sent to your house. Yeah.
Just provide a couple urine samples, send it back, and then you get this beautiful printout with tons of information. And so that's one of my mainstays when I suspect endocrine anxiety is, well, do you have enough estrogen? If you do, is it the right kind of estrogen? If not, we can help metabolize estrogen properly. And then we're not even necessarily directly treating the anxiety. We're saying, thank you, anxiety, for giving us information that allows us to dig deeper and actually treat the root cause. So instead of these people, it kind of goes back to the beginning of our conversation. We went to the street in LA and we're asking everyone all their symptoms, right? If we'd have just put them in one bucket of, you're anxious, take an antidepressant, but maybe they're making all sorts of inflammatory estrogen, or they don't have enough estrogen, or their progesterone is going into the anxiety-producing progesterone, the antidepressant's not going to solve that.
No.
In fact, they may get worse symptoms. They may have more weight gain. Now they don't have a libido and their partner's really feeling rejected, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I love that we can get really precise and honor the body and empower the women.
Yes. And I think that is why I loved this book so much, is just that it's that blanket statement, you have this or you have this diagnosis or XYZ, and then you label yourself, and then you do feel like a victim. You don't feel like you can educate yourself in a way that allows you to dissect, well, what is it really? And how can I heal it? And is it forever?
Oh my gosh.
And that's what you're doing. Like, you're allowing people to understand. So we have thought anxiety, and then we have endocrine anxiety. What else?
And immune system anxiety goes hand in hand with endocrine anxiety. So do you ever get, this is like huge for me personally, do you ever get seasonal allergies?
I had a lot of sinus infections growing up that started as seasonal allergies, but I found out actually that I have celiac disease, and so I was able to remove gluten, and I went from like having 4 sinus infections a year and having antibiotics over and over again, totally obliterating my gut, having like swelling on my ankles at like 17, 18 years old, where it was like, is that edema? Like, what's happening? To like getting, my kids are in school, so I get sick more often than I ever had when I was not with children. But my immune system is so much stronger than it was back then when I like didn't know what was really wrong.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's a really, I think, profound example. And the thing with celiac, for those who are listening, is it doesn't have to show up when we're kids with gut issues.
I didn't have any GI effects that would have pointed that way.
Yeah. So
a little constipation.
Yeah. It can show up in the gut, often talks to us. but celiac can show up all over the place. So if we think about celiac, so the body is producing antibodies against its own tissue.
Right.
So then you have this inflammatory process that's going on. And when there's inflammation, it sends a signal to the amygdala in the brain. Amygdala is the emotional processing part of the brain. And the amygdala is like, uh-oh, we're in danger. I'm going to send out a cascade that's going to result in cortisol. And then when that cortisol goes up, we're going to feel stress. We're going to feel alert. Our autonomic nervous system is going to elevate to be a little more aroused. But that will also suppress some of that inflammation. Right?
It's cortisol to fight inflammation.
Cortisol to fight inflammation. But here's the problem with that is the cause isn't gone.
No, it's chronic. And so
it's chronic.
Cortisol is chronic.
Yes, cortisol is chronic. So we're all running around with this chronic higher level of cortisol. We have this suppression of inflammation. We have this inflammation that's beating it out because every time we eat wheat or whatever is that food activator for whatever it is for us, it's now you have this warfare going on. And when you have continued amount of warfare, inflammation, battles of the bugs in our gut, now the bacteria in our gut changes. When the bacteria in our gut changes, our thoughts, our emotions, our sensations, our metabolism, our hormones, everything changes. The gut-brain axis, right? And then have you ever heard the quote, leaky gut, leaky brain?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course, right? So for those who are like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Is that you have all of these inflammatory cells. They're now, I'm kind of doing the gesture. So for those who are listening, I kind of have my fingers together. And then if you imagine that you can make the little holes, it's like if you take a garden hose, you leave it out and it bakes in the sun, you turn the water on, it comes out the water hose.
Yeah.
That's like leaky gut, right?
Yeah.
So then all these inflammatory cells are now in your bloodstream. They're getting up to the blood-brain barrier. It's kind of knocking on the door, irritating it. These inflammatory cells leak into the brain, and now we have inflammation in the brain, which predisposes us to anxiety, depression, neurodegenerative diseases, all sorts of things, right? So then we feel anxious. We can't sleep well. We get all these symptoms, and talk therapy is not going to work.
Yeah.
Antidepressants aren't going to work. We got to treat the gut. We got to treat the immune system. We got to work with nutrition, the diet. We got to work with what's going on. And you're like a genius at that stuff.
No, I mean,
I love it.
I am a support to some amazing functional MDs, and I am a habit changer for a lot of people. Get people out of the perfectionistic mindset. Just like find the good, find the good, find the good to keep going, because it's that consistency. Like if we're talking about like LPS is lipopolysaccharides, those like, you know, that leak out of the gut and into the brain. You're like, we don't want those in the gut. We don't want them in the brain. We don't want that breakdown. And it's not going to be like, we're just going to like do a 4-day thing and it's going to be healed. Like we got to get on that train and ride it for the next 20 years. Like we got to be healing and protecting for a long time to stay out of that state. But it's totally possible. It's just, that's where that, like, I love the habit stuff more than anything, and like setting yourself up for success and having like light boundaries and light structure, because I think what I've seen, you know, over the last decade is that people really can follow through when we aren't being so strict or labeling things so good and bad that we feel shame and guilt. We can truly lean into, well, what did I do for myself? How did I take care of myself? Can I find the good on my plate? Like what did I add? Which really changes the conversation.
And it's empowering to add good, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to like deprivation or like, I can't have this. Like I'm going out for ice cream with all my friends and I can't have it and I feel deprived.
Right. Exactly. 100%. Yeah. So what's interesting to me, what I found interesting was that you did highlight, I mean, thoughts are, most of the time when people think about anxiety, they think like, oh, I think this, and then my body feels that, and then it cycles and it keeps repeating, and it's like a broken record, and I can't get it to stop, and the rumination happens, and that makes sense. But what I love is the endocrine and the immune playing like such a big role, because most people don't go there. So when you're working with people and trying to help your clients, when someone's working with you at first, like what kind of intake are you doing and what kind of testing are you doing so they don't take ownership? Like, this is my fault. I'm broken forever. It's never going to be fixed.
Plus the fear, right?
Right.
Like I'm broken. This is forever. I'm not going to be fixed. And my body, my mind, my symptoms are out to get me. And oh my God, when's it going to happen again? And feeling at war with ourselves. And so the question is how can we recreate that relationship of love, respect, and collaboration with our minds, our bodies, our nervous systems? And so the beginning of that is often I ask people to write down their biography, because oftentimes our biography becomes our biology. And so write down your biography. Write me the story of your life and the way that you see it, the way you interpreted it. Who are you? Who do you want to be? Let's write that down. And then we take that biography and then we turn it into a timeline, and we find keystone events, because our symptoms are adaptations, right? And they can show up in a lot of unexpected ways. And a metaphor that I like to use is it's kind of like if you live in Alaska in the winter, you adapt to the cold by putting on a warm jacket. And that warm jacket is going to warm your skin, it's going to warm your body. Your thyroid doesn't have to produce as much thyroid hormone to increase your basal metabolic rate to warm you up. Your hypothalamus doesn't have to work as hard. You have this adaptation, this coat. And this coat, this adaptation can show up as a result of a stressor or something even as severe as a trauma. And so our mind, our body, our nervous system, and all these complementary biofeedback loops kick into place to help us be better suited to survive whatever did or did not happen to us. So we put on a coat. But the problem is when that adaptation gets sticky. And we move to Cancun and we have on this coat. And suddenly this coat, which protected us and we desperately needed it, is making us too warm. And we're actually overheating and we're suffering, right? So adaptations that come into play when we're younger, that get stuck and no longer continue to adapt, even though our circumstances have changed, can cause us suffering. And so perhaps there was something that you inherited. For the example of the celiac, we inherit our gut microbiome from our biological mother. And so perhaps you inherited a group of bacteria that had an adaptation that was protective for your female ancestors that in our modern American living was no longer adaptive for you. And so then it started to create a foundation for symptoms. But the amazing thing is that your body has an incredible capacity to heal. Our gut microbiome changes with every bite of food that we eat, for the better or for the worse. And our brain continues to change through the gift of neuroplasticity. Our immune system changes. So as we're building out these keystone events, we can look at what might have happened. What might have happened that changed the way you see yourself, others, or the world? What might have been difficult or challenging, or I had to do things different, or I felt different, or my diet was different. We moved across the country. I got a vaccine. Like, who knows? Anything. We write those down, and then we begin the process of unpacking what happened and what didn't. And that's sort of the beginning step. And I like to do functional testing when necessary, but I don't like spray and pray testing. So for those who just feel like, oh my gosh, if I want to heal, I have to spend $10,000 in functional testing. Oftentimes we don't, because if we just allow ourselves to go back to the basics, recalibrate our relationship with our symptoms, do things that open our window of tolerance bit by bit by bit, oftentimes the body really knows what it's doing and it can heal.
I love that you push people to open their window of tolerance, to like push themselves to try something, because I think when you think about your green, yellow, and red light example, what you're doing is like taking something that would be a red and making it a yellow, or taking something that's a yellow and making it a green. And it's like anything else you do. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. When 10 pounds feels heavy and then you're strong enough, it feels light. 15 pounds is something you can carry in 25. And then all of a sudden, you know, like you're deadlifting 50 pounds. I don't know, you know, but you're like, oh yeah, I just do that now. Like, and I think it's that growth and progression. How do you get your clients to keep pushing themselves? Because I think that's a really hard part. To have the internal motivation to push yourself and grow, so that the things that feel anxiety inducing don't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why isn't it like our set point to just be cozy and comfortable in that big jacket in Alaska and not really like cause our, ask our thyroid to do the work or our body to shiver and do the work? Like, it just feels easier to just say, I don't have to do this.
I love being cozy. I study Ayurveda also.
Okay.
And so my tendency is to be like very Kapha.
Yeah.
Which for those who are like, what was that? Ayurveda is a system of medicine. It came out of India. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. And Kapha is an imbalance where we tend to want to just be cozy and like put a blanket on and just lay there and do nothing. But an object that is stuck is going to stay stuck. And so creating motion will actually help us create more life and energy. So I love that. You're like, yeah, I would like to stay in Alaska.
Yeah.
And so I think habits are really awesome for this because people will naturally start to lean into the imbalance that they have. So if somebody is in an imbalance where they have a lot of yeast in their gut, they're going to crave sugar. That's going to make them crave, eat more sugar, feed the yeast, and it's just going to spill. But if we can create small, bite-sized habits that it's like we don't even have to think about it, this is just what we're going to do, then it can help us start to crave more of what is going to give us life. And I think making them small makes it feel more doable. So for example, practically speaking, I walk people through a 4-step process.
Yes, I love this. I want you to share this part.
Okay, good. Yay.
Okay.
So the 4-step process, no matter if you have thought anxiety or gut anxiety, we talked about endocrine, immune system anxiety, your heart pounding, chest anxiety, if you have trauma anxiety that's because of PTSD or something traumatic that happened, or if you have depressive anxiety or anger anxiety, any of the types of anxiety, this 4-step process will work. And you want to use it every day for at least 90 days. That's what the neuroscience shows it takes to create a new habit. So just tell yourself, this is a small thing we're going to do every day for 90 days.
Okay.
And so step 1 is practicing getting into the body. Because in the neuroscience, we know that when amygdala gets activated, when it thinks we're in danger, it's going to bypass logical brain. So when people tell us, oh, just calm down.
Relax. It's fine.
It's fine.
You're like, I'm actually more stressed now. Thanks for that.
Yeah. That was the most unhelpful thing you could have said. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first thing we want to do is we want to know, oh, logical brain isn't here. Just got to get into the body. And so strategies to get into the body are things that are going to be very physically based. So this is touch, this is temperature, this is grounding, this is the breath, this is scent, this is the scene. So if someone's listening to this and they're feeling a little bit agitated, and if you're feeling a little stressed right now, here's something that I want you to do. This is going to be something with the body. This is the salience hack. Do you remember this? Ooh, girl, this is so lovely. So when we're facing forward, we're reading a book, we're on a computer, even we're just on a treadmill, the body can feel like it's in a fight, flight, freeze, just like a deer in headlights. And so even if you're just chilling and you're like doing your own thing and you're like, oh my God, why is my body getting stressed? This is a quick hack. So what you're going to do is you're just going to start to notice your breath. Oh my gosh, I haven't been breathing. Wow, okay, taking a couple of breaths here. And then I want you to actually rotate your eyes and your head. And you're going to look over your left shoulder. Breathe all the way out. Rotate the eyes. And then you're going to take a nice breath in. You're going to face forward. You're going to go all the way over your opposite shoulder. Squeeze all that air out like you're twisting. And then you're going to face forward. We're going to actually look far over the computer, over the wall. And you're going to notice that, focus your eyes, and then bring your eyes back to focus on something close. You just interrupted a whole panic-producing network. How long did that take us? I don't know, like 3 seconds?
Yeah.
It's fast. So it's getting back in the body. Using the breath gets us back in the body. It stimulates the vagus nerve. Earlier, we were talking about those little gut bugs, right? The vagus nerve is that highway, direct communication between the gut and the brain. And the vagus nerve is like a light switch to feeling calm. We love the vagus nerve. Let's figure out other ways to stimulate our vagus nerve. Swallowing is really good. So we both have water. Cheers. Take a sip. So swallowing.
And you said cold water.
Cold water. When I was flying here, they're like, it's going to be bumpy. And I'm like, give me a cup of ice.
Yeah.
So ice, the vagus nerve goes through the root of your tongue, cranial nerve 10.
Mm-hmm.
So swallowing ice, also applying cold to the face. So Marsha Linehan, who created dialectical behavioral therapy, she's like, oh, just stick your face in a bucket of ice water, activates the mammalian dive reflex. But I don't want to carry around a bucket of ice water and be like, hold on, Kelly, I just gotta.
Yeah. Sounds great right now, actually. On a spa day.
I know, right? Yeah. It's like a spa. But for those of us who can't stick our faces in buckets of ice water, get a cold pack, especially if you have kids. You need a little first aid kit anyway.
Yeah. I've got one in the car.
You're like, done and done. Well, it could be for us. So if you're driving down the highway or if you're about to go into a meeting and you're feeling that autonomic arousal, the body's getting activated, you're feeling stressed, it's okay. We could stimulate vagus with a little cold. Get that cold pack, shake it up. It will have a chemical reaction. It'll get nice and chilly. Place it over the eyes, the chest, the back of the neck. And just breathe, just in and out a couple of times. If you want to supercharge that breath, left nostril breathing has been studied. It has parasympathetic nerve innervation. And so that's why we use it in yoga. So you can breathe through the left nose to try to supercharge that breath. My nose is stuffed a lot, so if you can't breathe through your nose, my friends, it's okay. You can breathe through your mouth. And doing that can be really helpful. Other things that we can taste would be sour, ginger.
Oh, yeah.
Rescue Remedy. You like that?
I love ginger and I love Rescue Remedy. I like all those. I used to buy the tin cans for Chris like all the time.
You're like, babe, just
I'm
take
like,
this.
This is it. It's like kind of reminds me of what was that movie where he was like, it's a Prin. And it was like aspirin cut in half, birdcage. Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And they're like, what are you giving him? Oh, it's aspirin with the A and the S scratched off. Like sometimes we just need that like someone to be like, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And like maybe you need it to be a placebo to like make you feel like you're going to be fine, you know? Like it's just, and that's where like strategies that you feel a difference. Like even just looking over my shoulder, that one was so powerful in here, especially because I spend a lot of time staring directly at my guests and trying to like I'm going into your soul through your eyeballs. Like I just want to feel really connected. And sometimes that can be really intense for people.
Yeah.
And then you forget like, oh, there's cameras and producers in the room. Hey guys, what's up? But it's nice to just look at. And I love a horizon line, whether it's ocean, mountains, whatever, like just space. I think we're used to having space.
Yes.
And then they, put us in these little teeny tiny boxes.
Yeah.
Tell us to look straight at our computer, straight at our phone. And you're like, wow, why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
It makes me feel tight.
Yeah, it's valid. So the way we feel, and if we can catch it, like you said earlier, if we can catch the little whispers, then it doesn't have to turn into a shout.
Yeah.
And so if we could just maybe every 20 minutes or so, just like rotate your head, take a little breath, maybe breathe through your left nostril, swallow something, maybe like treat yourself with a Rescue Remedy, something like that. Oils. But let's go because I want to make sure that we have time to get through the other ones.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
So we just got into the body. So now we got into the body. We know that we've now opened up access to your prefrontal cortex. This is really fun.
Okay.
So your prefrontal cortex is top down. This is logic to change the body. This is resources to help us to get into coherence. It's where we awaken our brain that is amazing and empowered and centered and all of that stuff, right? So what we're going to do is in this step 2 process is we want to create bridges between our emotional brain and our logical brain because otherwise emotion hijacks. So here's a practical way to do that. I've borrowed this from Havening, which is amygdala de-amplification. Amygdala is emotional brain. De-amplification is we're just turning it down.
It's the lizard brain, right?
Our lizard needs to settle.
I don't like reptiles, so that's great.
We're going to tame the reptile in our brains. So we're going to notice a feeling of stress. And so if you can think of something practical, you don't have to say it, but just think of like when you felt like a little bit stressed. And maybe rank it on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the worst stressed you've ever been and 0 being I don't feel stressed. Okay, so we're going to notice that. And we're going to notice it for about 10 seconds. So maybe notice where that feeling of stress lives in your body. For me, it often is in my chest. That's why I keep gesturing here.
That's so weird because
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever really noticed like any chest tightening or like maybe I'm not in contact with my maybe I'm just moving so fast that I'm not feeling.
Yeah.
Because it definitely feels tight in my chest.
It does. Ooh, that's good awareness. That's good interoceptive practice. So you're noticing it. We'll notice it for about 3 more seconds. Just keep noticing it. 2 more seconds. 1 more second. And then we're going to do a component of touch because touch, like EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, touch brings the brain into the present moment. So there are 3 ways that in Havening they teach us to touch. One is you can imagine dusting your hands off, and so we're touching back and forth. Some people, I like the one where you dust off your shoulders. It's kind of like a nice little hug. Some people, I don't want to mess up my beauteous bangs here, but touching down the face, this one has the most positive research.
Okay.
And so then while you're doing that, you're going to spend about 20 seconds. You're just going to repeatedly be doing whichever of the 3 touch gestures you like. And then you're going to do some mental math. So we would have you count, and for time's sake, we won't do this whole thing, but we would have you count down from 40 to 0 by 2s. And then I would have you say your alphabet. And then what's your favorite store? Like your cheat store, like wherever you want to go for indulgence?
Oh, I love this restaurant called Abba.
So you get to go to Abba.
South Laguna.
Yum. All right. So you would imagine going to Abba and you would tell me what are the 10 things you would order off the menu and how you'd
like
want
the
them.
whole menu.
Basically,
but the sweet papas for sure.
Sweet papas. All right. So then you do that. And what we're doing is we're using logical brain. We're creating a road. And then we relax our hands in our lap. And then we go back to that yucky feeling, that yucky sensation. And we just notice it. And we notice anything different about it.
It's just like kind of dull.
It gets dull. So then we notice the dull. We just notice that anything that changes is changeable. And then we repeat the process. So then you go back, do a little math, maybe some long division if you know how. I don't remember how to do long division. I have a calculator. Thank you. And so that's step 2. So that's practicing building bridges. And so the more that you do that, the more easily available your prefrontal cortex will be when you need it most in the future. So then we go to step 3. So now we've gotten into the body. We used tips. We used cold, temperature. Step 2, we went into a yucky feeling, created bridges. So now we've woken up our logical brain. And now we want to bridge the gap between brain and body. And this is with rehearsing interoception.
Okay.
Interoception is the ability to feel our bodies. A lot of us live from here up. I ask patients all the time, well, what does it feel like in the body when X, Y, and Z happens? And most of the time they're like, well, I feel annoyed. Well, where do you feel that? Well, in my mind.
Yeah.
What do you feel in the body? Well, I don't know. Well, we got to
in the body.
Yeah, we got to get back into the body. The body is safe. She's just trying to talk to you. And anxiety is not dangerous. We're safe. Our body is designed to make all these funny feelings to talk to us, and we can respond in a way that is honoring and healing. So a practical exercise you can do today is while you brush your teeth in the morning and at night, is you're just going to practice noticing. You're going to start at the bottom of your feet, and then you just notice your feet. My foot's actually really sore. I was carrying a big heavy bag in the airport, so I just notice it without the need to change it or respond to it or do anything. We just practice noticing. And the not doing anything about it is really important for people who have health anxiety or maybe identify as having hypochondriasis, where every little sensation, they're really, really aware of it. And then they feel like they have to do something about it. Is in this exercise, we're just noticing. And then we just accept it and let it go. And then the last step is the most important. Are you ready? Okay, so the last step is where we extend out of our window of tolerance. And this is the question you asked earlier. So, well, how do we do that? So let's say that someone is afraid of flying. I think that's a really practical thing, and I can tell you all about it, is that maybe we don't go straight for the fear. We don't go straight for building a house, rehabbing a house. We don't go straight for like doing something stressful with kids or, anything big like that. We're going to start with something that's concrete. And what we're going to do is we're going to retrain you how to get activated and rescue yourself. Because remember, personal power is the antidote to anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel like you're more on the warm end of the spectrum or more on the cold end of the spectrum?
With
like your constitution.
Yeah, I'm more warm.
You're more warm? Okay, so this might not be as horrifying for you as it would be for me.
Okay.
But like cold plunges.
Okay.
So if you get in a cold plunge, a lot of people are talking about it. So you get in that water, the body is going to produce all sorts of yucky sensations. Have you done it?
Yes, I've done it.
What did you feel?
Mostly it was like very fast because I got right out. If I'm being totally honest, like when I cold plunge, I'm like, I would much rather be in a sauna for 3 hours than like get in a cold plunge. So like to get in, it's just, like it's so much constriction and like trying to use my brain to keep me in the water.
Yeah.
And then it's a million needles and then I pop out.
So it's so good that you do that though, because you in your personal power, you're choosing to do something that's very uncomfortable and then you choose to rescue yourself. So that this is a reprogramming experience, is I can do something from my own agency. We're not masochists here, but I'm going to do something that's growing for me. And maybe it's standing in the shower and just turning it onto a little bit cold.
Yeah.
And then feeling cold for 15 seconds. It's a little bit less extreme, right?
Yeah.
And then you can feel the feelings that are really uncomfortable and then you rescue yourself so that your body's like, oh, we have power.
You're in control.
You're in control.
Makes sense.
So that when something happens that you didn't necessarily choose, you've practiced 1,000 times what to do and you know you can do it. Another practical example would be like a high ropes course. Is you are up there, you look down, you're like, ooh, that's freaky.
Yeah.
But I'm going to choose to stand here for 30 more seconds, rescue myself. High intensity interval training. I'm going to run on the treadmill. My heart's going to go really fast. My blood pressure is going to go up. My body temperature is going to rise. I used to do Orange Theory and I would get that zappy in my teeth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is autonomic arousal. Okay, well, just slow down. And then you rescue yourself. So if you can practice, step 1, get in the body. Step 2, creating bridges. Step 3, creating more of an awareness of the body so that we can hear it whispering before it shouts. And then step 4 is reliably rescuing ourselves, is that will retrain you to be in power. That's how to be panic proof. So then no matter what happens, you're like, I've done this 1,000 times. I'm going to get on that plane because I feel like it.
Yeah.
It may feel a little weird, but we've got this. Yeah.
And you're choosing to because you're in your power and you're also probably so excited about sharing your book and your work.
Yes.
That you're willing to push yourself.
Yeah. And it was a great flight. I chomped on some ice, looked out the window. I was like happy. I was like, oh, these funny feelings, we're excited.
Yes.
How freeing is that?
So freeing. So freeing. And you just don't want, whether it's like your chest anxiety or like anger anxiety. Like no one wants to feel those feelings. And if you're feeling out of control, but like relabeling them and asking, I mean, like I even think, and we talked about it a little bit, like I want to support people in my family that have anxiety or that are dealing with it, like to help them find their power so they don't feel that way. And your book is the answer to that.
Thank you so much. It's like an absolute honor and joy. And this is what I desperately needed in the beginning when my anxiety got really big and strong. So if it can change one person's life, then that's a job well done.
Absolutely. 100%. I feel like so many times when the author is answering their own call, it really resonates with the audience, the readers, and the people that are helping. So Dr. Nicole Cain, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your wonderful book, Panic Proof, with everyone. It's available now. I'm so excited for you. Where can people follow along? Where can they learn more and continue to be panic proof?
I love helping out on Instagram. I respond to every comment, every DM. And so
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but it's so meaningful and I have an awesome team. And so come find me at Dr. Nicole Cain on Instagram. And Panic Proof is everywhere books are sold. Buy local, or if you want, you could get it at the library too. So
amazing. Thank you so much for all of your work.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Be Well by Kelly LeVeque podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review in your favorite podcast app and subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. We're also excited to share that full-length video episodes are now on YouTube and Spotify, so you can watch along as you listen. The best way to support me and the show is by sharing it with your friends and family. Your recommendations make all the difference. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and Cass Falding. The video is recorded by Luke Rodriguez and edited by Jesse Trout. Sound mixing is by Mike Fry. See you next time.
The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical or mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or healthcare team first.